Number 10. Oniaki. Since this is still fairly a new game released in August 2019, I understand it's not exactly hidden, however other RPGs quickly overshadow it and now it's already on its way to become one. In any case, it stays on number 10 for being the least hidden in the list. Developers Tokyo RPG Factory, same people behind the famous I Am Setsuna, also worked on this action RPG. Dark story about a watcher called Kagachi in charge of protecting the cycle of reincarnation. To do this, he needs to kill demons and help spirits into the afterlife. A series of events occur then that makes him start questioning everything, and therefore his journey begins. From an isometric view, sometimes top-down too, we control Kagachi in a hack-and-slash battle system. At the beginning, he will have a specific demon that materializes as a weapon to attack. As you advance in the game, he will be able to have more. What's interesting is that these demons have their own part of the story and character development. Oniaki is a hard game. Not brutally unforgiving, but it can get pretty challenging sometimes. Best way to treat it is a little bit like a Souls-like RPG where you'll need to seek the better angle or strategy to fight your enemies, especially with the bosses. So, hidden gem or not, I think it's a very solid game that you need to play. Number 9. Nelke and the Legendary Alchemists. This is a crossover from the Atelier series with a new main cast and story. However, it has a lot of heroines and other characters from across the franchise. Now, it plays a little different from any other Atelier game, which made it gain a lot of criticism. Instead of moving around with your girl and taking quests, everything here is managed by menus, meaning you'll only select the actions of your characters during battle and pretty much anything else. There's a lot of micromanagement involved because the game is about building a town, evolving into a city. Characters from other Atelier games will be in charge of shops, harvest fields, and alchemy houses. Quests, also pending on a time limit, will mostly go around these transactions. Nelke is in charge of everything, so you'll be taking on her role to manage the entire game. Exploration in areas will be done with a party of 5, with 2 guest Atelier girls in the back. And battles will be played in a very good turn-based system. During these explorations, gathering items will be performed by the characters. So overall, yeah, it is different from all the other titles in the franchise, but it's a crossover, so they had to come up with an alternative, right? In my opinion, they did a decent job. Number 8. Labyrinth of Refrain, Coven of Dusk. This is a wacky game, a first-person dungeon crawler that's friendly for beginners. Although it does get hard eventually, it's not as hard as many other titles of this sub-genre. Story takes you to the adventures of the witch Runia in a quest for exploring a very dangerous labyrinth. She has a mysterious book and, well, it may sound strange, but you, the player, are supposed to be it. So on to create generic characters with no personality, but full of color, charm, and of course, fan service to do battles for you. The dungeons in this so-called labyrinth, I have to admit, are bouncing with energy and craziness. They're weird, sure, but visually stunning. Battles will be played in turns, like most of these kinds of games. Obviously, your strategy will depend on the type of job or class you chose for your characters. As an NIS game, it definitely delivers what it has to, as it is a colorful game with a great comedy for a story. If this is your type of RPG, I strongly suggest you check it out. It can also work as an interesting entry for beginners looking at a challenge. Number 7. Fairy Fencer F, Advent Dark Force. Here we have a good compile hard game that miraculously made it on the Switch. I guess its very small popularity earned it a place there, who knows. I don't need to explain the plot characteristics of the game of this company. You already know it's gonna be filled with the usual anime tropes and some big sexy moments. As a comedy though, it works wonders. It truly made me laugh out loud several times. I guess the battle mechanics are what attracts most players to these types of games, as they are remarkably good. They play in turns, but you can move around in small areas to position your characters in convenient places. Then it's on to create combos and brutalize your enemies, or suffer the consequences. In the end, I'd say it's like an improved version of most Neptunia games this company is known for. The game will rely on its story progress, although there will be some quests here and there. If you wanna laugh and enjoy a cool turn-based combat, this is totally a great game to play. Don't expect too much though, as it is still a compile hard RPG, nothing more, nothing less. Number 6. Mercenary Saga Chronicles. 3 indie RPGs that started off as mobile games, strongly influenced by the historically important Tactics Ogre. Soon the second and the third one were ported to the 3DS on a digital format. Apparently they made enough noise for Nintendo to allow a complete port of the Trilogy on the Switch, now on a physical version too. Now, Tactics Ogre is a very hard strategy RPG. These 3 are like a watered down version of it, but only in terms of difficulty. The balance is there, the engagement is still there, and so is the challenge. I like the stories on all 3 of them, considering they involve the usual warfare drama and diplomatic treachery. All in all, inside the lives of a group of mercenaries on each game. So you move in squares, in isometric maps, luring enemies, using skills and fighting your way through, just like in Tactics Ogre. But these mechanics play out so good that I understand why they are available on different platforms. So here are not only 1, but 3 hidden JRPG gems in one single purchase. Give them a try if you can. Number 5. God Wars: The Complete Legend. Another grid-based strategy RPG, one that I know I've covered many times before in this channel. However, the Switch release is apparently the complete and definitive version of the game. This one includes all the DLC, a new dungeon that expands the story, and new playable characters. Story follows the arduous journey of a princess whose sister was sacrificed and whose mother is now missing. She's trying to find her through many different ordeals in the feudal Japan area, but with spiritism and mythology involved. You have a cast of some anime tropes and very suggestive characters joining her for many different reasons. Now, God Wars starts off like a perfect tactical RPG for beginners, but in reality, it's not. Even if you play on easy mode, you will start having problems after a few missions. This is because the game is unbalanced at times, but you know the drill, right? Grinding and strategizing will definitely solve most of the obstacles. So play any version of this game to try it out, or if you wanna just go straight for it, don't forget the Switch release is the definitive one. Number 4. Code of Princess EX. The remastered version of the original release on the 3DS follows the journey of Solange, an exiled princess out to clean her royal family's name during a war. However serious that sounds, trust me, it's mostly a comedy with funny bits and tits. Yeah, I just said that. Anyway, Code of Princess is an action RPG that plays like a side-scroller beat-em-up, but very technical. It's a tough game to master because of this, as you need to learn how to make proper combos and abuse skills, depending on the enemies you fight. You also need to move in layers to be in the same line as them so your attacks can land efficiently. This is a game with tons of playable characters, especially the Switch version, which added even more. It also offers a 2-player co-op mode offline, making it all the more fun. I covered this game very recently in my 4th Hidden Gem or Hidden Trash episode, so let's not prolong this little review. So that's all for the basics of this excellent game, time to move on to the next one. Number 3. Lost Sphere. Lost Sphere, not Sphere, it's a turn-based RPG also by Tokyo RPG Factory. It takes place in a world where entire towns and people are being swallowed by the mist. Your characters will have to save them by going inside their memories to restore everything and everyone. Beautiful story, beautiful visuals, and beautiful music will be overly present here. It plays similar to I Am Setsuna, but here you can manually move your characters around. This is something you'll do to get a better precision and strategize your attacks, and therefore, the outcome of the battle. It can get really tough sometimes if you don't know what you're doing, but overall, it's a pretty balanced game. Unfortunately, this amazing RPG sold nowhere near as good as I Am Setsuna did, perhaps due to the lack of Square Enix marketing. That's the reason why, even though receiving a positive welcome from critics, went undersea very quickly. Hence why it became a hidden gem in no time and one of the absolute best in this list. Number 2. The Alliance Alive HD. Here we have another amazing remaster from a game originally released on the 3DS. I'm a big fan of Mr. Yoshitaka Murayama, creator of the Suikoden series. He wrote the script for this excellent turn-based RPG, so for me, it was a no-brainer to give it a try. I love the 3DS version and now I love the remaster as well. The Alliance Alive is a story that involves classism and racism. Races live under the oppression of the daemons, which has obviously spawned rebellions across the world. United in an attempt to stop this, different characters, including some daemons, actually join forces. The game has influence from the Saga series, which means your characters don't have levels, instead they gain different status on a random basis after battle. This will usually make you think the grinding was useless, but you also earn money and talent points, so it's quite the opposite. Even so, the game's very balanced most of the time, with only a couple of boss battles that are honestly unfair. In conclusion, this is a fantastic remaster for a brilliant game that pretty much defines the term hidden gem, in my opinion. Number 1. Langraer 1 and 2. These pair of strategy RPGs, originally released for the Mega Drive a long time ago, were remade for modern systems quite recently. However, back then we only got the first one, called Warsong, on the Sega Genesis, so this will be the very first time many gamers will be able to play an official English release of the second title. I'm a huge fan of Cryar, a defunct company absorbed by Atlus that created the Langraer and Grow Lancer series too. I was anticipating this remake since I loved Warsong with a passion, even though it's brutally hard. Difficulty in this new version, I felt it was nowhere near as criminal, so I was happy to enjoy the new balance. Now, both games take on the same story, so the second one is a direct sequel to the first one. They revolve around a devastating war with a sinister invasion we see from the very first chapter of Langraer 1. I like that you can switch between the original artwork by famous artist Satoru Urushihara or the remake versions of it. Langraer 1 and 2 are tactical RPGs on long grid-based maps. Each commander can have small platoons of soldiers or mercenaries, some of them being around them, some on their own which the player controls. Battles impose a triangle of strengths and weaknesses similar to the Fire Emblem series. Most missions have a different objective, but they will be completed if you kill the main enemy commander. Doesn't sound too complicated, but don't underestimate this game. You need to learn certain things, such as having your small platoons around your commanders to enhance morale and damage. I love these two amazing RPGs with a passion, man. The remake of the gameplay was just spot on, even with its amazing rocking soundtrack. I'm so glad they were remade recently. Hopefully, this will help other obscure and underrated titles return to modern systems. Number 10. Death End Request. Certainly one of the most unique compile-hard RPGs ever made. The premise is so complex, interesting and confusing that it hooks you up right from the start. You play as a game designer who seems to be trapped in an unknown world but can still hear the voices of her co-worker. Eventually they find out together she's actually trapped in her own video game, so they must work together along with other trapped girls to find the reasons why and escape from there. And you guessed it, there's tons of reading here, almost like a visual novel. The battle system is also quite unique here. It looks like regular turn-based, but when you attack your enemies you can send them flying all over the battle arena. If they bump into each other they receive more damage altogether, but only 3 girls can participate in these battles. It's called Dead End because your actions matter in this game. If you take an incorrect action, a character might die and you will immediately get a game over called a dead end. Anyway, it may still be a compile-hard RPG no matter what with cute anime girls, but like I said, it's definitely the most original of them all. Number 9. The Lost Child. The story here revolves around a reporter who investigates several different weird cases involving paranormal activities. It was made by the same team who developed El Shaddai for the PS3 and the Xbox 360, a very good hack and slash game actually, and this is allegedly a follow-up to that game even though this is a turn-based RPG completely unrelated. In fact, the main character of El Shaddai can be recruited early in the game as a party member. You'll control the game's protagonist and his sexy companion who seems to know more than what she shows. It's a pretty solid title in which you can recruit monsters to have them fight by your side and carry on your investigations in a modern setting. As you can see, it's a dungeon crawler in first person. Nothing really special there. Its originality comes from the plot, the idea of being a reporter into the paranormal stuff, and the several dark twists you'll see throughout the game. Number 8. Mistover. Another dungeon crawler is Mistover, which was digital only until it got a physical Chinese release with English subtitles. However, this is not in first person. It's an overview, almost top-down, where you control your customized character exploring several ruins and hazardous areas. You actually create a bunch of different job-classed characters to join you on your missions, because it's actually principled by quests and nothing more. The plot explains that horrible creatures suddenly appeared out of a vortex and raided the world, so your job is not only to survive, but to go into expeditions to find ways to help with that and to find a way to stop the vortex. The battle system in Mistover is side by side. You can position each character in one layer with 3 grids. The closer they are to the enemy, the more powerful their attacks, but the more vulnerable they are. In conclusion, it's pretty much a Darkest Dungeon clone, where it's all about preparing your characters for these dangerous expeditions. Number 7. Dragonstar Varner. In this game, you'll be in control of a witch hunter soldier that has the misfortune of being an actual witch, so he ends up teaming up with other witches to put a stop to the conflict between them and the Empire. All sorts of missions, however, will make them fight constantly with monsters and going into different areas to explore. The battle system is what stands out in this game. It plays in turns, but it adds a little strategy. You see, you can move up and down on different layers to attack certain enemies, or certain parts of the bigger enemies, like the bosses for example. You can perform normal attacks, special skills, or elemental magic spells that will be bound by the usual strengths and weaknesses. The witches can also transform, increasing their status and causing major damage to the enemies, so it's all about playing around with the positioning during battle. It's very good. I recommend this game if this combat sounds interesting, and also if you're into heavy fan service. Number 6. Brigandine, The Legend of Runia. It is a sequel to a PS1 game with the same name, but in terms of plot I think it's unrelated. Just like before, you choose at first a commander out of 6 different nations fighting in the middle of a war. I suggest you use a walkthrough with this game because it's just as cryptic as its predecessor. I mean it because some nations are way harder than others to play as. The goal of the game depends on the nation you choose, but they all end up trying to win the war by attacking and occupying enemy castles. Once again, you'll control large parties of characters and mix between soldiers, knights, and even all types of monsters. The campaigns will go on in large maps with battles in between. You can freely control your characters in these hexes and they can fight one enemy at a time, obviously considering strengths and weaknesses. To achieve victory, you'll need to either defeat the enemy commander, also known as the Rune Knight, or pretty much occupy their base. This game I only recommend to experienced gamers in tactical RPGs. It's not as hard to get into as the first game, but it still is for newcomers to the genre. Number 5. Coloon High School Chronicle. This is a remake of a PS2 game that never came out of Japan. It got a physical release in Europe by P-Cube, but remember that your Switch is region free. Coloon is by far the most unique dungeon crawler in first person I've ever played, but it's also more of a visual novel than anything, although there's tons of decision making, like every 5 seconds you gotta choose a reaction to all conversations, which is something that keeps you entertained. After all, the story is very interesting about a transfer student in the middle of several paranormal events happening at his high school, so it gets pretty dark every now and then. Obviously, your reactions and choices affect your relationships with all characters you meet. Some of them will join you on several investigations during night at the cemetery. That's your dungeon crawling in first person in large areas full of many different puzzles. Battles are played in turns and you can use a variety of projectiles and weapons, but you have to aim at the enemies to attack them. You can have your allies do something to aid you in battle as well. Overall, it's a great game full of personality and originality. I strongly suggest you check it out if what I described sounds like your kind of jam. Number 4. Dragon Marked for Death. The digital version of this game was cut into 2 parts, each with only 2 of its 4 initial playable protagonists. The physical version has them all. It's a 2D action RPG from the creators of Mega Man Zero and Azure Striker Gunvolt, so you choose your main character out of 4 different classes, and yes, they all play very differently. There's a story about reaching the highest levels of the town to exact revenge on the evil empire, but it doesn't really focus on the plot as the game's quest-driven. Quests will show you around the strong steampunk elements it has. They will have different objectives like killing a specific boss or finding a specific item. There's a timer involved, but it's always a lot of time, so trust me, you'll get things done way before the timer finishes. 2 things to know here are the difficulty. The game's quite challenging even from the first missions, but it can be lessened by playing with somebody else as the game has both couch co-op and online multiplayer. Up to 4 players can join. This is a really good choice if you're looking precisely for an RPG to play with somebody else, and even if you're not, the game's still totally worth it. Number 3. Knights of Azure 2. This is a sequel to a game that didn't make it to the Switch, and I don't even know why. It's a fast-paced action RPG where you control a sexy heroine that's been cursed. She dies at the beginning of the game, but is brought back to life as some kind of vampire. She and her friends must hunt down an evil queen to stop the cycle of the new moon from completing and taking over the world. You'll fight with Alush, the main character, and you can have up to 1 female companion to fight alongside you, and up to 2 different creatures that you can recruit, train, and evolve. The controls are excellent here, as is the entire action. You'll fight through different gothic-looking areas and dungeons, killing an array of different enemies with regular combos or powerful combination skills. The soundtrack is superb with some sweet, nostalgic melodies here and some gothic metal themes there. It does have several endings depending on the female partner you have the more points with. This is definitely a great game you'll play for its amazing action style. It's also visually stunning despite being on the Switch. Number 2. Soul Nomad and Phantom Brave. Nipponichi Software looks prepared to release some of the old classics remastered on modern systems. This is Volume 1, and it did get a physical release with both games, Soul Nomad and Phantom Brave, both originally published on the PlayStation 2. They're strategy RPGs that play quite differently. In Soul Nomad, you choose between a male or female avatar that will be possessed by a powerful and evil World Eater. Your goal, however, will be to defeat the rest of the World Eaters. Battles will heavily depend on the many formations you'll acquire throughout the game. The more you advance, the more teams you'll be able to deploy. Each team is led by a commander, and those are the ones you'll move on the map. Upon making contact with an enemy, a battle out of your control will take place, similar to the Ogre Battle series, but you can select the type of actions your characters will execute before that. Now, in Phantom Brave, you take control of Maruna, an outcast girl accused of being possessed. Since her parents died while he was with them, Ash, now turned into a phantom, decides to help her in her journey. Just like in Disgaea, this is all about creating random characters with different jobs and small customization elements. Battles are laid down in isometric areas. Maruna needs to summon her party members, the Phantoms, by confining them to several different objects lying around. Each Phantom has a limited amount of time, so after a few turns, they will vanish, not die, mind you, for the rest of the battle. So strategizing when to summon them plays a vital role here. It's not grid-based, so movement is bound by freedom with limited range. Overall, this is an excellent combo, and I'm so glad they got released, especially Soul Nomad. Can't wait for Volume 2 to see what RPGs they'll include this time. Number 1. Fuga, Melodies of Steel. It might not be that obscure since it recently came out, but I feel it isn't getting the recognition it deserves. It was developed independently by CyberConnect 2, creators of the Dot Hack series and Sola to Robo. Actually, Fuga is part of the latter's universe, which also includes Tale Concerto on the PS1. You follow the tragic ordeal of several kids during a fictional war in a continent where humanity no longer exists. Their families have been kidnapped by the enemy army, so they want to rescue them. At the beginning, they'll find a huge tank that will be used to traverse the landscapes and enemy bases. It will be used to do all the fighting as well, with each kid paired up with another one in a certain weapon of it. All kits are assigned to a specific different weapon, and each enemy is weak to one or two of them. The gameplay will lead you through these 2D areas with several different routes to follow, although they all lead to the same boss at the end. Occasionally you will encounter these ruins where you'll be able to carefully traverse through traps in order to gain items that can be used to strengthen the tank's armor or weapons, and also to expand the facilities that can be used for various different purposes. Although some of these items can also be found during the regular routes, there's a whole lot more to this game than what I'm explaining here. It's such a unique experience that plays like no other RPG I've ever seen in my life. Definitely give this one a chance if you can. It's currently digital only, but I hope it gets a physical one day. Number 10. The Mary Skelter Trilogy. This is a set of games that are dungeon crawlers in first person with a lot of dark stuff in them. The first one appeared on the PS Vita but was later ported to Windows. When its sequel came out on PS4, Switch and PC, it was included digitally as well. And then a third and final game came out on the same aforementioned systems. Yes, they're all connected, and it is highly recommended to start with the first game first. Each focuses on different things, but mostly carrying over the overall plot conflict seen in the first one, set in a post-apocalyptic world where the entire city has been pretty much invaded and occupied by horrible beings. These beings are released by the jail, and in fact, the two main characters escape at the beginning and join a group that fights against it. As dungeon crawlers, you'll be basically exploring around large areas with puzzles that can be solved by a character's ability, and so on. Visuals are a very interesting sight, and the music that accompanies them can be cool and creepy sometimes. Combat in all 3 games is turn-based, with the girls attacking and Jack as support, at least in the first game. Girls can also transform if they attack or receive too much damage, with the danger of going berserk. It's a cool battle system. The last thing I want to say is that the 3 were controversial because of their heavy fan service and a minigame completely uncensored in the first versions of the first title. Censorship was there for the sequels and it got worse over time. Other than that though, all 3 are solid games, definitely hidden gems on the Switch. Number 9. Hero Land. Hero Land is a theme park where people can go pretend they're playing an RPG. The protagonist is poor, so he comes here asking for a job and they give it to him just like that. So now he's supposed to be the guide to customers looking to live the dream as RPG heroes. If it sounds extremely stupid, it's because it is, but in a good sense. As a tour guide, your job will be to accompany these people, especially the main story characters, into dungeons to fight enemies, defeat a boss, and get the treasure. That exploration is done through these short route maps, getting a scene in between battles. Combat is out of your direct control. The 4 active fighters, each with a different job-like ability, will fight on their own, targeting randomly. To prevent that, you can pause the battle and give them a specific order every now and then, but everybody, including you, has an action waiting bar. You can also do this to use a healing item on one character or various, or even to resurrect them. It's a challenging game surprisingly, but nothing actually hard. But you may need to grind a bit every now and then, or you can just complete side quests from both story characters or random NPCs that want to live the adventure. You got your shops, your random scenes, your blacksmith cause weapons break here, etc. It's actually quite a unique game, like barely anything I've seen out there. Number 8. Saga Scarlet Grace. Saga Scarlet Grace was first released on the PS Vita only in Japan. Later it got an enhanced port in modern systems but digital only, and that's the version the rest of the world got. Like in most Saga games, you choose between various protagonists, in this case 4, each with their own story unraveling in the same world. In fact, it's a world highly influenced by its lore and myths, which lays the basis of the story for each character. Graphics are beautiful and you even have an overworld with your MC walking literally on top of it from one place to another. It is a story-driven adventure, but side quests are waiting for you here and there. You gotta consider also it's a bit of a grind fest, but that's nearly every Saga game for you. Some decisions you make also influence the course of the story, by the way. You don't necessarily need a guide to play this game unlike Romancing Saga, but it might help for a few roadblocks. The battle system plays in turns with up to 5 characters under your command, but there's an AP system and it is shared amongst the party, so you can only select a few attacks across all characters to fight. You need to decide if you want just one guy using all the points to attack and with what skill, or have 2 characters attack twice or 3 attacking only once, etc. So thanks to this, it is a very challenging game, but also pretty darn fun. Number 7. Laposel Tactics and Rhapsody, a musical adventure. This is volume 3 of a series of remasters Nipponichi Software has been doing of its old PS1 and 2 games. We got Soul Nomad and Phantom Brave first, Makai Kingdom with Setai Hero Project second, and finally this one. Laposel Tactics is actually a port of the PSP enhanced version of the PS2 game. You play as Cryar, who works for the church and is bound to be the next maiden, kinda like the chosen one. They fight demons since their job is similar to that of an exorcist. It's a really fun comedy. The remaster looks nice but not outstanding, it's just a half decent port on the Switch and that's it. A strategy RPG where you move on grids, but those same grids may have these colored layers that affect the elemental strengths and weaknesses of everyone that touches them. For a long time it'll be an easy game, but don't underestimate it as it'll start getting more and more challenging and complex, but it's pretty good. Rhapsody originally came out on PS1 and that's the version we got here. It looks absolutely fantastic with its beautiful backgrounds and pixel art. You follow Cornet in a quest to impress Prince Ferdinand to fall in love with her, but things go south when a sexualized witch attacks the castle and kidnaps the prince. Yeah, you don't take this game seriously, man. It's a dumb comedy and it's very charming, especially thanks to the music. You will traverse areas and visit a few towns and dungeons, traditional style gameplay, you know it, but combat, while not necessarily strategic, plays on grids. but it's a shrunk version of any tactical game out there since you only have a few characters, namely Cornet and the monsters she recruits, fighting against other monsters. It's simple, extremely easy, but entertaining nonetheless. This is a good remaster, not the best out there, but with two very unique hidden gems that I personally recommend. Number 6. Sakuna of Rise and Ruin. Sakuna is a fun 2.5D action RPG that I wasn't expecting to like. Combat seemed awesome even though Sakuna was kinda hard to control, mainly because she uses this sash as a hook to quickly move to the walls or the ceiling. Once you get used to it, it's very fun, but I thought I wouldn't like it because it involves some farm simulation. However, since it was simple, only requiring the minimum to do, including the minigames, it also turned out quite entertaining. It diversifies on what you need to do to grow rice, because otherwise it'll be repetitive and boring. Basically, you take care of it for several in-game months, and when it's ready, it's time to prepare it in one way or another. Once it's done, you send it to Sakuna's realm, and that's how you level up here. I found that weird. Why can't I just level up by fighting enemies? Regardless, it seems to judge also how you performed in everything, and the story is about Sakuna, a spoiled goddess sent to an island infested by demons, but she gets caught up with some humans that wanted to shamelessly cross to heaven. They all do something gameplay-wise, like taking care of weapons, or the armor shop, or even the dishes, and these dishes boost Sakuna's stats during combat. Bosses are freaking epic here, and it's probably the best part of the game. This game is strongly recommended. Number 5. Blue Reflection Second Light. A bunch of girls wake up with missing memories in a world with no other humans except monsters. They set up in an empty school building and make the decision to survive while finding a way out of there. They also realize they now have magical powers and can fight those monsters outside, so you'll be exploring different areas in order to recover every girl's memories while solving simple puzzles here and there. Battle system is played in turns, but time flows, so you have to strategize quickly. Don't worry though, since every time one girl's turn comes up, it pauses, so you can decide what to do. One extra girl besides the 3 active can help with healing items. And of course, enemies are weak to certain types of attacks, elements and whatnot. To be honest, it's a very intense but fantastic battle system, I loved it. Outside of that, you can gather items and materials you'll need for 2 things. First, you can build small locations around the school that can boost your stats during exploration and battle, but you also need this stuff to create different items, including key items to advance in the story. Overall, it's a beautiful game I've covered multiple times before because it's just that good. It's also a sequel to a rare game on PS4, but it's also on Steam. Number 4. Cryar. Cryar is a dark action RPG with a story revolving around 4 girls with different powers. They acquire these powers by making a pact with 2 devil twins in purgatory, each for their own purposes. The protagonist, Ray, wants to find her sister and save her from real death, so she and the other girls traverse the demonic labyrinths of purgatory full of enemies. To fulfill their end of the bargain though, they need to kill these enemies and absorb their souls to give them to the twins. Little by little, an evil plot starts forming around and it can get pretty dark sometimes, especially on the psychological side. No party members are here though, you fight only with one girl, but once the others join, you can switch to them at any time. You guessed it, each controls very differently and each is strong against a specific type of enemy. It's called Cryar because to learn abilities or create accessories, the game requires, well, Ray to cry. Yeah, at home she can carry that out and use her magical tears, I guess, to do stuff like that. It's weird, I know, but it's just a small gimmick to give purpose to the name. Other than that, it's a really solid action RPG, very recommended, and there's a sequel coming soon this year. Number 3. Fuga, Melodies of Steel 2. Speaking about sequels, here's one that got released a few weeks ago. I praised the first game before because I absolutely loved it. A short adventure about a bunch of anthropomorphic kids. Ravaged by the ongoing war, this game is a direct sequel to it, so it's necessary to play the first one to understand this. Anyway, so the kids went their separate ways after the events of part 1. Now they're back because the Tarnished, the tank they used to fight in before, has gone out of control. A mysterious and evil guy steals it with a few of the other kids in it. So Malt, the main character, and his remaining pals steal a tank called the Tarascus that used to belong to the enemy empire to go and rescue their friends. The gameplay is exactly the same as before, traversing route maps in 2D with a few stops to do battle, gather items, or heal. Combat is still played in turns with up to 2 kits assigned to each of the 3 weapons of the new tank. However, each kit specializes in a certain colored type of weapon: machine gun, grenade launcher, and cannon. Obviously each is strong against some kinds of enemies and so on. Just like before, you can switch kits around every few turns to exploit that mechanic. This combat is a blast again. Back are the intermissions where you explore the tank, use materials to upgrade it or expand facilities, including the fishing facility, the diner, the beds and the farm. Having 2 kids talk will unlock bonding scenes between them and link attacks during battle. New features are there like the judgment system. Malt can make decisions that will affect his morals or his determination, leading to a different ending. However, there's one thing that I really disliked in this sequel. There's a tragedy that I won't spoil that almost broke my heart, and it happened somewhat early in the game. It's horrible and I'm sure it'll make some people stop playing this game. Apart from that though, gameplay wise, this sequel did not disappoint and it's just as addictive as its masterful predecessor. Number 2, Dead End Request 2. Last sequel in the video, I promise. I made a whole review last week about this amazing JRPG that blew me away, stupidly dark and unexpectedly horrifying. It's a direct sequel to the first game, so it's kinda necessary to play it to understand this one. It's very good too, so definitely try it out first. But this sequel focuses on Mai after brutally killing her abusive father and getting sent to a girls' orphanage in a remote village. Actually, a remote village full of mysterious and terrifying secrets, including horrible monsters only Mai and other 3 girls can see and fight. It also has a bunch of bad endings depending on your decisions, called Dead Ends. Fortunately, if you get one, the game gives you the option to restart from the last decision. Navigation is pretty bad in this Switch port. PS4 version has no problems though, but this one suffers from choppy frame rate, which leads to a troublesome camera and weird controls. Everything else seems fine, including combat, still somewhat choppy but not too much. Run around the battlefield to position your girl near the enemy or enemies, select your 3 attacks, and if you include one with a knockback feature at the end, well, this awesome chaos can be triggered by pushing them around. Great combat, great story, quite impactful and bloody, but it can't be number 1 because of the frame rate issues. Number 1. Redemption Reapers. This amazing strategy RPG took me by surprise. Directed and produced by Hiroyuki Kobayashi, who worked on numerous Capcom games like Resident Evil and Devil May Cry. Written by the co-writer of the Metal Gear Solid series. This is a dark fantasy game where a foul race known as the Mort has nearly wiped out humanity. A group of mercenaries band together to fight them off, trying to form an alliance with the only remaining kingdom in their army. You'll command 5 playable characters through several maps with an isometric view. It's a bit inspired by Fire Emblem in a few features. For example, characters can carry and equip a bunch of weapons of the same type, and they break after several uses. Also, whenever you level up, the stat increase is random, but that's where the influence ends. Anyway, maps have hordes of enemies around and a few relics or treasures. The game has an easy and normal mode only. Once you choose, you won't be able to change it, so keep that in mind. It's challenging, but if you have experience, you'll be fine on normal mode. So you control your units moving on grids and attack regularly using attacks or skills, melee at the mercy of counters. But the awesome feature here is that if one or more allies are on the adjacent grid of the enemy, they can execute a cooperative attack. Basing your tactics on this feature is the key to success and ultimate enjoyment. At base, you can upgrade weapons with materials, repair them if they're broken or about to break, use extra experience points, buy items, and use skill points to unlock or upgrade abilities. This is a fantastic game, A great hidden gem that I'll definitely cover in full detail in the future.